North American Aerospace Defense Command, so-called NORAD, closely scrutinized our airspace, including
and we'll do Ohio
enhancing our
coverage
radar
too
to pick up more slow-moving objects above our country, around the world. In doing so, they tracked 3 unidentified objects, one in Alaska, Canada, and over Lake Huron in the Midwest. They acted in accordance with established parameters for determining how to deal with unidentified aerial objects in U.S. airspace. At their recommendation, I gave the order to take down these 3 objects due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because we could not rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive facilities. We acted in consultation with the Canadian government. I spoke personally with Prime Minister Trudeau from Canada on Saturday. And just as critically, we acted out of an abundance of caution and an opportunity that allowed us to take down these objects safely. Our military and the Canadian military are seeking to recover the debris so we can learn more about these 3 objects. Our intelligence community is still assessing all 3 incidences. They're reporting to me daily and will continue their urgent efforts to do so, and I will communicate that to the Congress. We don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country. The intelligence community's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Dude,
when
I
came into
told
office,
you.
I instructed
I told you, motherfuckers,
to take a broad look at the phenomenon of unidentified aerial objects. We know that a range of entities, including countries, companies, and research organizations, operate objects at altitudes for purposes that are not nefarious, including legitimate scientific research. I want to be clear. We don't have any evidence that there has been a sudden increase in the number of objects in the sky. We're now just seeing more of them, partially because the steps we've taken to increase our radars, to narrow our radars. And we have to keep adapting our approach to dealing with these challenges. That's why I've directed my team to come back to me with sharper rules for how we will deal with these unidentified objects moving forward, distinguishing between those that are likely to pose safety and security risks that necessitate action and those that do not. But make no mistake, if any object presents a threat to the safety and security of the American people, I will take it down. I'll be sharing with Congress these classified policy parameters when they're completed, and they'll remain classified so we don't give our roadmap to our enemies to try to evade our defenses. Going forward, these parameters will guide what actions we'll take while responding to unmanned and unidentified aerial objects. We're going to keep adapting them as the challenges evolve, if it evolves. In addition, I've directed my national security advisor to lead a government-wide effort to make sure we are positioned to deal safely and effectively with the objects in our airspace. First, we will establish a better inventory of unmanned airborne objects in space above the United States airspace and make sure that inventory is accessible and up to date. Second, we'll implement further measures to improve our capacity to detect unmanned objects in our airspace. Third, we'll update the rules and regulations for launching and maintaining unmanned objects in the skies above the United States of America. And fourth, my Secretary of State will lead an effort to help establish common global norms in this largely.
I'm always right. Or even when I'm wrong for the right reasons. Savor this W. It's just, I really wish Big Mike wasn't in fucking Australia right now because I want to send him every article written about this. No, Big Mike was like getting whipped up into a frenzy by what he was reading in the news. And I kept telling him, like, bro, it's not like that. Photo of the object being taken down. Pretty big, size of a dump truck.
The unregulated space. These steps will lead to safer and more secure skies for our air travelers, our military, our scientists, and for people on the ground as well. That's my job as your President, Commander-in-Chief. As the events of the previous days have shown, we'll always act to protect the interest of the American people and the security of the American people. Since I came to office, we've developed the ability to identify, track, and study high-altitude surveillance balloons connected with the Chinese military. When one of these high-altitude surveillance balloons entered our airspace over the continental United States earlier in the month, I gave the order to shoot it down as soon as it would be safe to do so. The military advised against shooting it down over land because of the sheer size of it. It was the size of multiple school buses and it posed a risk to people on the ground if it was shot down where people lived. Instead, we tracked it closely, we analyzed its capabilities, and we learned more about how it operates. And because we knew its path, we were able to protect sensitive sites against collection. We waited until it was safely over water, which would...
Wow. So you knew the balloon's path. But I thought this was a, unmanned surveillance capability having like super fucking secret balloon tech. We had a balloon gap, they said. It almost feels like it was, again, a fucking balloon that went awry. That you, well, not Biden as much, but the media whipped everyone into a fucking frenzy over. Big Mike, Logan Paul's boyfriend.
Would not only protect civilians, but also enable us to recover substantial components for further analytics. And then we shot it down, sending a clear message. The violation of our sovereignty is unacceptable. We'll act to protect our country, and we did. Now, this past Friday, we put restrictions on 6 firms that directly support the People's Republic Liberation Army, the People's Liberation Army aerospace program that includes airships and balloons, denying them access to U.S. technology. We briefed our diplomatic partners and our allies around the world, and we know about China's program and where their balloons have flown. Some of them have also raised their concerns directly with China. Our exports have lifted components of the Chinese balloon's payload off the ocean floor. We're analyzing them as I speak, and what we learn will strengthen our capabilities. Now, we'll also continue to engage with China, as we have throughout the past 2 weeks. As I've said since the beginning of my administration, we seek competition, not conflict with China. We're not looking for a new Cold War, but I make no apologies, and we will compete. And we'll responsibly manage that competition so that it doesn't veer into conflict. This episode underscores the importance of maintaining open lines of communication between our diplomats and our military professionals. Our diplomats will be engaging further, and I will remain in communication with President Xi. I'm grateful for the work of the last several weeks of our intelligence, diplomatic, and military professionals who have proved once again to be the most capable in the world. And I want to thank you all. Now look, the other thing I want to point out is that we are going to keep our allies and the Congress contemporaneously informed of all we know and all we learn. And I expect to be speaking with President Xi, and I hope we're going to get to the bottom of this. But I make no apologies for taking down that balloon. Thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Colonel Layton. Were you satisfied with the president's explanation that these...
Let's get the decorated psychopaths on board to assess whether or not Biden was doing a good enough job dealing with a news story that's only in the news because we just would not stop covering it, like China is violating our safety, sanctity, security. We covered it endlessly, even though it was like an objectively funny thing. Like literally a balloon. It's a funny concept. It's a funny thing.
These were, in fact, likely benign objects that were shot down, especially since we have yet to find and retrieve these objects.
Yeah, Vienna, not really. And here's why. You actually hinted at it, because we haven't really been able to retrieve objects from the crash sites of these downed objects. So we really don't know very much about them. It is certainly possible that the president is completely right about these objects and the intel community is completely right about them. But the one thing that we have to be careful of is not to mirror image the way we do things with what other countries are doing, because the distinction between the private sector and the public sector in other countries is not as profound as it is here in the United States. So I want to be very...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. The United States public sector and private sector are so different, especially as it pertains to the military industrial complex. So different. Okay. You want to know what the difference is? The public sector in China, the government controls the corporations. In America, the corporations control the government. That's it. That's the difference. As far as their interests being united, it's the same. The difference is China at least has like some semblance of nationhood and will operate at the behest of its citizenry to a certain degree. Make no mistake, they still will completely overlook whatever the immediate needs are. But demonstrably, they have helped uplift a lot of Chinese people out of poverty. That's just true. That's not my statement. That's the World Health Organization, you know, that's every fucking, that is literally Oxfam and every fucking international organization that looks at the Chinese development over the course of the past multiple decades. You can call me a tanky all you want. Okay. Anyway, as I was stating, in America, though, it's the opposite. It's how corporations work at the behest of capitalism and will do whatever the fuck they want and will manipulate public funds and manipulate the government at their behest. Okay? That's it. So they're still unison. They're still in unison.
Very cautious. These may be from a different entity. They may be something completely different. They may be completely benign, but I'm not convinced that they are not some kind of surveillance craft of one type or another. But we will see as these results hopefully come in at some point.
Natasha, a couple of the senators we've spoken with over the last few days have said that the president should come out, he should certainly speak to the American people when he has something new, when he can tell them something more about at least these three most recent objects that have been shot down. I've been waiting for it. I was ready to write it, but I don't know that we learned a lot more, anything new than what we've already heard from John Kirby and other officials close to the president.
Exactly right, Victor. I mean, John Kirby, who is one of the spokespeople for the National Security Council.
What? Wait, hold on. This guy said, what really uplifted millions of Chinese out of poverty? For damn sure it wasn't the CCP. In the same time frame, in the same exact time frame, for some weird reason, we were still increasing our GDP, and for some weird reason, that didn't translate to a similar uplifting of economic status for Americans. Why do you think that's the case? Do you think it has something to do with how you use the resources that you are given? how you use the foreign capital that was pumped into your country? Or do you think it has nothing to do with that at all? And it was just like, you know, it just happened on its own for no reason. That's a damn good point. What? Why are you so agreeable? What the fuck? I thought you were going to give me some fucking insane take that was like borderline xenophobic. Okay, I'm not going to complain. That was the quickest reform I've seen, dude. It's craziness.
Did say earlier this week that it is the preliminary assessment of the intelligence community that these 3 objects that were shot down were not being used for intelligence purposes, and that they were likely benign, they did not have hostile intent, and that they were likely balloons but were not necessarily being used for surveillance. And that is something, of course, that the president did echo here. He did go a little bit further, saying that they could have been, you know, tied to private companies, for example, or used for things like weather. But ultimately, it was the message that we've been hearing over the last week, which was that this was done out of an abundance of caution, and of course that it was done because they were at a particular altitude that was potentially dangerous. Now, the one thing I did find particularly interesting about Biden's comments, which did seem new, is that the president has directed his team to come up with policy parameters so that they can better kind of figure out essentially what poses a threat in U.S. airspace and what doesn't, so that they're not constantly shooting things out of the sky, right, every time they see one. This was a really unprecedented series of events where they saw these 3 objects. And
bro, China unintentionally showed everybody that, like, we're like a rabid dog that has somehow figured out how to operate, like, you know, a Glock. Okay? And we will literally fucking shoot. And the best part about it is that they didn't even do it on purpose. It literally happened. It happened by accident. They said that it was coming your way. America was tracking it the entire time, but once it made it over Montana and people started taking photos of it, the media machine just went anti-China mode. That's it. And then after that, it's like, it basically just turned into, we are going to shoot at everything. Sergio Tacchini, thank you for the 10 gift subs. Delgado 305, thank you for this 5 gift subs.
One after the other shot them down with U.S. fighter jets. And these policy parameters, the president said, will be classified so that enemies don't have a roadmap to evade our detection. So clearly, moving forward, the president has heard some of this criticism that this was a...
Yeah, we don't have a roadmap to evade balloon detection, dude. We have to... Yeah, balloon gap. We just need multiple millions of dollars in funding so we can, like, destroy the balloons that come over the United States of America. You know what I mean? That's just, the balloon gap is now the new problem. It's the new problem, the new issue. Everything and anything can be used to justify wasting additional resources that are not even, like, limited, really. They're vast on the military industrial complex. It's like identical to the top of the hour ad break and the industrial complex revolving around it, where, like, all matter of resources are collectively utilized at the top of the hour to avoid the top of the hour ad break, you know, by subscribing for $5 a month, or by subscribing for free with a Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub if you're lucky. You know, you will be able to avoid the top of the hour ad break that way. Here is the 3-minute ad break now.
Bit much, right? And moving forward, they want to establish some kind of parameters so that they're not having to do this constantly, because, you know, the American people as well as lawmakers were saying that they need to know more about what the threshold is going to be, right, for actually taking these objects out.
But we begin with another mass shooting in America. That is exactly how we started this newscast 2 days ago.
Oh, fuck. So much of the balloon shit story was carried by the fake checkmark disinfo Twitters like Rap House TV, Raw Alerts, Lamau. Those are ironically some of the only news that the anti-vax conspiracy theory types will believe. Yeah. All clouds are bunnies. Thank you for the 5. Get the subs. Dude, that is wild, but it's so real.